Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside. Today we are in the Ottawa region, more specifically Nepean. We are here at Conspiracy Theory Brewing with Paul and Ward.
Oh,
Hi.
thank you very much.
Thank you for having me
being here.
Thank you for
Thank
having us
you.
today. Very much
Thanks for
appreciated.
coming.
So Paul, what's the beer story? What brought you to craft beer?
It really started around 3-4 years ago. After we moved back from India, we lived there for 4 years on posting. My wife's with Foreign Affairs. And while we're over there being diplomats, we're really exposed to a lot of European and international beers. And after moving back here, I was always the BMC type of drinker, Coors and Moosehead, and I went down to the beer store and it's like, you want $48 a case? And it wasn't all that great after sampling some of the international beers that are available. A friend of mine at work said, why didn't you start homebrewing? And at that point I said, well, homebrewing, it's not all that great either, but it was 20 years ago that I had my last homebrew. And it was really not good because it was all the malt extracts and stuff like that. So I spent the winter of 2016 researching how to homebrew. And I did my first batches of beer in 2016. And here we are, 2019, the end of 2019, and we're opening up our first brick and mortar location.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So what are some of the roadblocks and difficulties you came into? First of all, brewing at home on a commercial scale, because I remember when we first went to your house, it was like a garage / your brewery. And then it was just simply where you are now. What are some of the roadblocks and difficulties you've run into with that stuff?
Well, I'd say the biggest hurdle was doing volume. We could never produce enough at home, being a small scale, small batches. We're doing 1 and 2 barrel batches. Really from the licensing standpoint, we're about 3 months from start to finish till we put our applications in and we were licensed to brew. So really from the home standpoint, there was not a whole lot to do brew in our garage. Now moving to our location here, we've been 2 years getting to this point. We've had issues with obviously finding a suitable location because rents right now in Ottawa is unbelievable. And we tried to stay in Barrhaven and we're finding we couldn't afford $300,000-$400,000 a year in rent. That's what they want because retail space is limited. Because we are wanting to open up a restaurant with the brewery, so we will be a full service industry here, and that's been our biggest hurdle. This is our 4th location attempt.
Okay. And Ward brought you into Conspiracy Theory Brewing.
Well, I've always liked imported beer. Since I started drinking beer, I preferred it to the domestic stuff. I like the idea of maybe opening a winery at one time, and I realized that wasn't quite achievable. So then I started looking at craft breweries and realizing that, this is something that could be done. And at the time, 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of craft breweries around, but now it's becoming a lot more realistic goal. So I had a couple of failed starts with other breweries, and I knew about Paul, and I went by and talked to him and liked him and thought, this is someone I could partner with, and he was looking for partners, and that's how I wound up here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you brought us a delicious beer out. Tell us about the beer you brought us.
So today we're going to sample our No Goal IPA. So with this particular recipe, well, obviously our theme is conspiracies with our beer. So every beer is built around a conspiracy, such as our Area 51 or chemtrails, New World Order. But with this one here, I brought it out for the start of hockey season, and No Goal's not really conspiracy, but every super fan out there of a team screams conspiracy when their team loses. The sun was in their eyes, the moons weren't aligned, Deflategate, you name it, there's always an excuse for something. So with this particular beer, I went back maybe 10, 12 years ago looking at ingredients of what was brewed at that point, because now with a lot of beers, everything's all the latest exotic hops, and I'm finding there's a lot of breweries, a lot of their beers taste the same because they're using the latest hops. So this one here, I went classic style. Okay, what were we drinking 10 years ago before the real craft beer scene really started to rise?
So like an ESB almost?
No, this one here, it's a low end IPA. It's around 65 IBU, 6.7%. So you'll have the classic, citrusy notes on the front end, and then it'll finish with a bit of a pine pepper.
Excellent. Okay, so as we say on the show, it's toast, but like really go out there. So toast. Oh yeah, it's nice too because it's not like the bitterness is there, but it's not overpowering in any way. It's very it's very like smoothish IPA, I find. So it's very delicious.
Thank you.
So what is the brewery name? Like Conspiracy Theory? What made you think like that's what I'm going to name my brewery?
Well, we're sitting down in our basement at the house trying to come up with a name. I find a lot of breweries, typically name their brewery after the town they're in, after their favorite dog, their favorite animal. We're trying to think of, okay, how do we get people to talk about your brewery? So when you think, my wife was the one that actually came up with the name. She came up with Conspiracy Theory because conspiracies right there. It surrounds us. It's always in the news. It's always in the movies. It's always a talking point. So when you hear conspiracy theory, Area 51, okay, well, that's been in the news this past summer. So we're getting a lot of promotion from that standpoint, right? And we just had the anniversary of the moon landing. So with our stage landing blonde, so it's really comes down to a marketing and how do you get people to talk about the products that you're serving.
Excellent. So that's where you brought it to name the names as well. They're all pretty much conspiracy theories. You have the Yeti. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Cousin Yeti.
Yeah, the Cousin Yeti. The Order of St. Patrick, which I had last time I visited you. I purchased a few. And Stage Landing. But the labels that you came up with along those, where did that idea come from?
Well, we're still working on our labels right at the moment. Our first two, our Chemtrails and Stage Landing, was actually designed by a lady in Africa that we met when we were living in India. So she was a famous artist in Africa at the time. She came up with them. So I don't really have a plan. It's really, okay, the style of beer that we're creating and how do we get the story to tie into the beer that we're making. And then obviously, I'll let the artists come up with I sort of give them free rein. It's like, come up with whatever suits you, right?
Okay.
Because if you really start putting constraints on what the artists and, their visual conception of what we want to do, it really hampers their creative juices, right? So it's really, okay, you get started and then we'll make some minor tweaks as we move along.
Is there any that's a preferred conspiracy you have at heart that you hold dear to your beer? Or?
Actually, not really. I'm a huge X-Files fan. I'm not really a conspiracist by heart. I've had quite a few real conspiracy theorists in the garage. I've had some flat earthers, although they said they're more followers rather than believers. Again, it's a good talking point. When people come in, we'll spend hours talking about beer. Like one beer, we'll probably spend like 45 minutes talking about. Just because of everything that surrounds it, right? So it gives a lot of people genuine interest into what we're doing.
That sounds awesome. I see you also brought us some bags of coffee. That's a new endeavor.
Yeah, we started that this year. It's sort of ties into what we're doing with the restaurant and brewery here, because we want to be open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and obviously evening to sample all our beers. So coffee is, I'm sort of doing that conspiracy thing with it as well. You wake up in the morning, you need that go-to. Okay, you have your cup of coffee, wake up, and then you can have the beer. Then when you need to sober up, you go back to more coffee, then we can get you drinking more beer. So it's a vicious circle, right? Again, everything's to sort of have some fun with.
That's great. What was the first beer you ever brewed?
Oh, I call that our banana beer.
Okay.
It was, I actually fermented it instead of in the basement, I just did it on the main floor. So it fermented really high. It was a Hefeweizen. And the banana really came out in the flavor of the yeast that we use, the Hefeweizen yeast. So we nicknamed it the banana beer.
Okay. Are you ever thinking of redoing it? Or are you ever going to bring it into the public? Or?
Oh, I don't think I could actually do that one again.
Okay.
That was, your first time. Again, the first time you do something, am I doing it right? Just so everything that. So I was messing with it. Okay, is it too hot? Is it too cold? Okay, it's not bubbling enough? I'm shaking it. I'm moving it around. It's like, okay. Now it's like, okay, brew it. You leave it alone. You forget about it for 10 to 12 days.
Ward, have you ever done any brewing, or does it interest you at all?
I've experimented. It definitely interests me. I look forward to learning how to do it on a big system, but I've done the homebrewing thing with the little concentrates.
Okay, and what was one of the first beers you made when you homebrewed?
Porter.
Okay.
Yeah, I love porters and stuff.
Excellent. Have you done any collaborations with any other breweries or your local bread store or anything like that?
Not at this point. We've talked to a couple local ones about doing some, a Bell's Corners beer or something.
Okay.
I'm actually talking about doing a petition, rename this town Beers Corners. We'll see how far that gets, right?
Yeah. So who would you like to, even locally in this area, who would you like to collab with?
Oh, we've been talking with Whippersnapper.
Okay.
We've been doing some with them.
And on a Canada-wide scale, is there anybody you think, you just throw it out there, hey, you want to brew? Who would it be, do you think?
I'd like to bring in brewers from Quebec.
Okay.
Because they can't bring their product here and sell it.
Yeah, well, so that's one of the constraints I always bring up is that we got to drop the interprovincial lines, personally. Yeah. There's a beer store in Plattsburgh, New York, and I could get beer from California. Why can't I go to my local beer store and not get beer from Vancouver or PEI or like... Yeah. I think that's a little unfair to the Canadian consumer, which is, I was part of Axe the Beer Tax and another petition to drop the interprovincial lines. But I think we need somebody in office who cares about beer. So,
Yes.
but that's hopefully coming at some point. Beercations. What ones have you been on, and what ones would you like to go to? Both of you.
Oh, I haven't done a specific beercation yet. I guess the closest one I did was in Belgium.
Okay.
They had a couple stores, 350 beers of Belgium. So went in, we were there for a week. So we got through about 20 some different beers.
Mm-hmm.
And one you'd like to be going to?
Oh, this is my vacation.
Oh, okay. So let's say
There
finally
is no
comes
more
around.
vacation.
Finally, you got 2 weeks off to go somewhere, anywhere in the world. Where would you like to go try some beer?
I think I'd like to do South America.
Okay.
We have access to a lot of the European beers and stuff like that. And obviously, with me being international, I've got to try a lot of beers from Australia, New Zealand, Europe.
Ward, yourself?
I just got back from Scotland, went to a whole bunch of brew dogs. I go to Florida quite a bit, and there's a great beer scene in Tampa. So Cigar City, Copper Tail Brewery. So I'm going there in a couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. I think my dream one would probably be to go to Munich and go to Oktoberfest.
Somebody comes in, first time to the brewery, and I'm used to your BMC, but I want to expand my palate. What do you suggest they try first?
Usually I start off with the Stage Landing, the Blonde, or the Area 51 Cream Ale. They're about 4.8%, 15 IBU, so it's just above what a BMC type of beer would be. So that's our lawnmower beers. You're working, you're sweating, you're outside doing that hot work. That's a good thirst quencher instead of having like our larger IPA here. It's like after a couple of those, you're not going to get so much work done. So yeah, usually I start them off with that, and a lot of people are quite impressed because I think probably 90% of the people that come in, their first beer has always been an IPA, and if they've only ever drank a BMC type of beer, an IPA is like that's quite a shock to the system, and a lot of times that sort of puts them off. So doing a lighter beer, a little more flavorful, it gives them a chance to say, not all beers have to be huge. Small, simple is sometimes good.
Okay. Have you been thinking of making any like wild beers? Like I'm going to try cherry pie milkshake IPA or something.
Actually, in the fermenter right now, I'm not sure if I'm quite crazy, but I have our iambic pentameter, which is a Belgian red base that I've added tart cherry juice to, and I'm aging it on oak.
Ooh.
But I used a different concentrate this time, and it turned out a little more sour than I wanted to. But I thought, well, maybe with the oak there, it might smooth out. So.
There's a scene for sour beers right now too. So maybe you'll find a group of fans who are like, "Yeah, give me the original, not the oak age." So you never know. So you are becoming a restaurant. Timelines roughly March, April.
Oh, we're hoping for sometime in February. That was what our original game plan was. But tie-ups with the city. Nobody ever works at the pace that you want them to. So. We're a little behind right now, but we're still working for February.
Excellent. And I know you're bringing in some chefs. How are you planning on having a beer/food alignment type menu?
Oh, absolutely. You can't have a restaurant and a brewery and not have it matched up with beer. I'm not sure if last time you were at the garage, I made a milk chocolate ice cream with our Imperial Porter. I'm not sure if you got to try that.
Fortunately, it was myself and two friends. When we rang the doorbell, your son answered, and I'm like, is this a brewery? And then he's like, oh yeah, I'll go get my dad. I'm like, oh, okay. This all makes sense now. Because we had no idea. We're all in the middle of to us, nowhere, because we're coming from Montreal, a big city. And all of a sudden it's like all these nice townhouses. And I'm like, how is this possible? And you explained to me that you can separate your house and your business. Yeah.
So the garage was licensed for retail and manufacturing. So I didn't have a license to serve. So whatever beer you bought in the garage, you had to drink it on the driveway because I couldn't actually serve it to you. Okay. So that was one of our limitations there. Yes. But
it's fantastic that you can actually do that. I'm not aware in my hometown if that's even possible at all. If I could homebrew and then, hey, come drink my beer and buy some. I don't know if that's possible. That's something I have to look into.
When I first started out, when I was sort of given the okay from my wife to actually do this, we were researching it, and I didn't know we could do it. We're actually looking for a retail spot to look at it. And I came across another local brewery here in Ottawa that was brewing out of their garage. And so that's where it gave me the inspiration to actually do it there.
The beer scene here, I find, is getting better in Ottawa, which is thankful. Do you think it's going to reach a point where it's there'll be a bit of a collapse and maybe a couple of fail here and there? Or
Oh yeah, I think we're at that point now. I've been in the high tech industry for quite a few years, 20 some years, and I find everything's on a 5-year cycle. So we have 5 years of growth, and then you'll start seeing 5 years of decline. 'Cause, the nice thing with the industry right now is that everybody's interested. They're not loyal like they used to be. Like my dad was an OV fan, like that's all he drank. So it's like now everybody wants to support local. They don't want to go to the big corporations anymore. So yeah, I think we got a couple more years where things are probably going to plateau, and then the guys that didn't really get their market together or their business, it just didn't take off for them. Yeah, we're going to see some collapse. There has been a few.
Yeah, I know Stonehammer was one. I was 4 years ago. I was at my sister's in Cambridge, and I did their little tour, and it was $10, but you got 4 beers with your $10, which is fantastic. You do a little tour, and they explain everything. And somebody who's still fairly new, I find myself to like. I've been going to beer festivals for 15 years, but it's only been the last 5 years or so that I've really gotten into the culture of craft beer, where I can't drink bad anymore. I go play softball with the guys. I'm like, no, I need good beer. I can't drink BMC anymore. It's just not in my system. So it's like I started getting more and more, and then discovering guys like you, and up the street you have a couple more. Each place has a different flavor palette that I enjoy.
Yes.
So, and you too, I find it's just such a change. That's why it's unfortunate that I haven't come back, because now it's like, oh, Vermont's about the same distance too. And I could try 37 new IPAs at BBCO, or I'll just go to your mom and pop's Von Trapp, which is a giant family restaurant with a brewery inside.
Yeah.
So it's the opportunity's there, and I think people are looking for more flavor now.
Yes. The beer lines now, I believe, are getting really blurred. Like when you follow the judging rules, there's 15 or 16 different categories. Now there's 60 some subcategories within those. So I've actually had a discussion with another blogger. He said, well, our blonde is too dark. I said, based on what? He goes, my perception. I think it's too dark. I said, well, based on the judging rules, you're really from an SRM from 2 to 4. I'm sitting at 3.5. Maybe I'm a little bit darker than the average one, but we're stage landing. It's a fake blonde. The moon landing didn't happen. So, but again, it really comes down to is whatever the desire of the brewer and the market that's coming into. Does it taste good? That's what matters. What you put into it. We could go back to the classic German laws. Okay, you're only allowed 3 ingredients, right? We can go back to that. Then maybe we're back to the BMC style beers now. So, but no, I think that the lines have really blurred on the craft beer market. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. But people really have a passion. Okay, what's the latest and greatest? I see customers come through, every 3 months when I release a new beer. They tried it. It's like, okay, they'll go off to another brewery, which is really nice for the industry. Share the wealth, like we're here. We need customers to come in just as much as we need to produce something.
Yeah. I'm one of those financial supporters where I'll buy at least a 4-pack at each brewery that I hit during that day, because I feel like I'm spreading the love, and more than likely I'm going to get 3 out of 4 good beers. Maybe one's a miss. It's rare, I find, in the craft beer industry. It has happened. I've had bad craft beers. It happens. Well,
that's usually when I talk to customers, it really comes down to your palate. Is the beer bad? I've had, some people, do a review on Untappd saying, I gave this beer a 1 because I don't like wheat beers. Like, okay, you don't like wheat beers, and why are you even drinking, But I just say, and we have 12, 13 beers now that we brewed, and, any customer that comes in, probably 3 or 4 of them are the beers that they like. The other ones, are they bad? No, it just doesn't suit their palate. Me personally, I think I've only had maybe 1 bad beer. It's like, I actually just left it. Give me a Coors Light.
So
it must have been really bad.
It was bad.
When you do open, you're going to be doing flights for people. Okay, that's I find another good way to experiment with beers that you want to try is get a flight. Yeah. That's it. I mean, Idle Time in Vermont, they line up the glasses with the 6 lines that they give you the tasters on. So.
Really? Well, going back to our menu, yes, we really want to. Our menu is either we're going to have beer in as a component in the food itself. We'll have a pizza oven, so obviously we're going to have beer in the dough. Beer brine chicken wings. Our imperial porter ice cream. 9.5% ice cream. It's all good. The first time I brought that out for a bunch of guys, I just got that you're out of your mind look. But you know what? They're wanting to buy it once they're done. So it turned out quite well. But like every beer, it suits a certain menu item. You're doing nachos. Our menu is going to be a standard gastropub. You know, we'll have the pizzas, the burgers, and nachos, you know, the chicken wings, the beer battered fish. But then our weekly menus, we're looking at doing an international street food. So we're going to do like every week, every 2 weeks, again, depending on how things are received. You know, we'll go to a different country and do the street food for that country. So we're getting something that's sweet and salty, something savory, something that's hot, you know, everything that pairs well with beer.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. And I really look forward for when you guys are actually open to come back, hopefully this summer.
Yeah.
So you got this. What's next? What's next for the Conspiracy Theory line?
Well, our first year, we're just going to concentrate on our location here. You know, following our conspiracy, our signature beer, our New World Order, it follows the Illuminati and Freemasons. We're looking at world domination here.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, you know, got to have some fun with it. It really depends on, you know, timing. You know, you were going back to what the craft beer industry we're talking about with that, you know, like, is this going to plateau or breweries starting to fail? Again, you know, yeah, I'd like to, you know, branch out, be all across the country. Is that in the cards? I really don't know. You know, future's not mapped that far ahead. You know, I do have a grand vision, but we'll save that for later.
And Ward, I'm assuming you want to jump on Paul's vision with this for the future?
Yeah, I think he summed it up fairly well. I like to focus just on the near future a little more.
Okay.
And worry about
instead
the big
of the long run, the next 2 months.
Right now, we're concentrating on February right now. Let's just open here, then see what happens. You know,
fantastic.
But again, you know, we have a lot of supporters. You know, we've got a lot of fans, and so the world's your oyster. You know, so whatever you make of it, you know, you take your opportunity. Again, it comes down to your business plan. How's the model? How's it supported? And what you can do. You know,
awesome.
That's always the dream: is go big. You know,
go big or go home, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty optimistic about the industry because I know the demographics tends to be millennials, and there's more millennials all the time, and they're willing to pay more for a quality product.
Yeah.
And they're not going to switch back to drinking blue.
Yeah, I'm part of Gen X, and I'm willing to pay for good beer. So that's that comes along. All right, excellent. So let the people know how they can find you when you're hopefully going to be ready for opening for the public to show up.
Yeah, we'd rather not say there's too many people watching.
Okay.
We'd like to keep that. No, currently we're building out at 2172 Robertson Road in Bell's Corners in Ottawa. We're currently under construction, but you're more than free to stop in and see what we're doing. You know, we'll always have samples here and, you know, come in and talk to us. You know, I didn't want to put in opening soon on the front window because I do want the customers to come in. You know, they're generally interested in what we're doing, and, you know, I don't want to turn them away when they're here.
Okay. And the website and social media?
Website, you know, we're ctbrewing.ca, and follow us on Facebook with Conspiracy Theory Brewing Company.
Oh, amazing. As for us, you can find us allbeerinside.com for the audio stuff, YouTube All Beer Inside channel, at All Beer Inside everywhere on social media. And as we always say, drink craft, not crap.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.